I do a lot of traveling for my job, whether it be en route service stations or hotels or airports. I get a chance to see firsthand businesses in action. And I don't mean people's Instagram filter wash page or what it shows on their website. I'm talking about what it is really like for the employees to work there. Because I don't know if you're like this, I sit back and I observe what does it seem to be like for that particular employee. And I can tell pretty quickly if they're having a bad day, if they feel supported by the people that they work for, if they have a good teamwork and collaborative environment. And one of the biggest things that I notice when it's lacking is that there is no visible leadership. I can't see a single supervisor, general manager, anything in between to be found. So here's the challenge I get with visible leadership. Leaders, you're busy. You got a lot of meetings to go to, you've got people to hire, you've got issues, I get it. I understand that you probably have priorities that your boss has set for you, and that may not mean that it takes you to the front line. And from having been in your shoes, I get the pressures that you can't seem to fit in another thing, let alone spending some time where the value is created, where your customers interface. But here's the possibility when you make the time or when you reprioritize your work. Number one, your people feel more supported. So you're less likely to have a revolving door of issues coming into your office. Number two, you can get in front of issues before they become massive. And number three, frankly, you look better to your boss and your peers because you know what's really going on and you have powerful strategies and solutions. So how do we move forward as visible leaders? Because I'll tell you a perfect example when it didn't exist and the impact it had. I was at one of those en route service stations. There was a line wrapped around the building, it seemed, in Tim Hortons. Now, I don't love my coffee and my tea enough to wait in that line, but I happen to be traveling with my husband on a business trip, and he needs his coffee, everybody. If I was gonna get back in a car with him for another 100 kilometers, this man needed caffeine. So we waited, and we waited. And there were 3 staff members on, and I could see a supervisor in the back, and I was putting my beady eyes on him. I'm thinking, if I just stare at him long enough, he's gonna come out of his office. I'm sure of it. Do you know he didn't come out of his office? Not for 35 minutes that we were standing in line. And when he finally left his office, I said, "Excuse me, I think your staff are struggling. Not because they're not great, but because I think they need an extra hand." He said, "Oh," he started to tell me, "Could you imagine? Well, we've been mentioning that we need more staff and we don't have it." I said, "Guess what? You can be that extra person right now. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. I'm just saying, I think your people would appreciate working here. And if you want them to work late tonight, because it seems like this line is not going away anytime soon, you probably better lend a hand so they're willing to do that." And he begrudgingly, huffingly got in there and started helping. Now the line moved a little faster, but everybody seemed to be more miserable. I'm telling you, this is not visible leadership. Instead, what would have been better, and I think you could probably imagine, he needs to leave his office and go, "Wow, there's a big lineup. That is not good for business if my customers are waiting." Number 2, what do my staff need? How can I jump in and I can help them? Number 3, what is the vibe of my team? What is going to roadblock their performance and in fact perhaps create more errors and greater frustration? And finally, how do I have a debrief with my staff at the end of this shift so we figure out a strategy? You see, people who aren't visible leaders often externalize their power and they see that it is a whole bunch of reasons why they cannot make their work, whether it be their own workload or in fact the conditions that they're working in. But that's a cop-out, leaders. That is a cop-out. Yes, I know you're busy, and you will be less busy. You will be more on top of your issues, and you'll be better able to retain your people so you're not constantly in this revolving door of recruitment if in fact you are there for your folks. So I'm going to come back next week and share with you some essential strategies of being a visible leader. And I hope that you believe by now that it is worth making the time and being available for your people. Some of the most trusted and respected leaders I know, regardless of role, were the ones that had the pulse of what was going on, were willing to jump in and lend a hand, and that they never felt their staff were struggling without them. If you are willing to be a visible leader and find out the essential strategies to be able to make this work, despite how busy you are, come back next week. My name's Sarah McVanel, always bringing you insights to help you magnify your greatness, and don't miss a single episode by subscribing to this YouTube channel. See you next week.